Hello, everybody. We are the University of New Mexico Team 1, and we will be presenting a pathway towards global scaling for Build with Robots. My name is Jesus Ortega, along with my teammates, Nikhil Reddy, Bhuva Ramalingam, and Irma Vazquez, as well as our advisor, Professor Peter Voroviev. I'm going to start with the company and product profile. Build with Robots operates in the robotics sector under the robot manufacturers industry. It is a privately held company looking to scale globally and not actively searching for acquisitions. The Breezy One is a one-of-a-kind autonomous disinfection robot. It is able to disinfect up to 100,000 square feet of area in under 1 hour. The Breezy One uses a powerful yet environmentally friendly chemical to eradicate virtually any pathogen. But most importantly, it is fully autonomous and requires no supervision to perform its disinfection routine. The estimated TRL is around 8 and 9, as well as the MRL, which is also between 8 and 9. Now, in terms of the market, while the entire robot manufacturing industry experienced a decrease of funding rounds in the past 3 years, the funding momentum for the disinfection robots market is very high. On the other hand, the exit momentum is non-existent. This could mean that companies are enjoying a good market position and are not looking to sell out, which is good news for the market. There are 3 major types of disinfecting technologies for robots. Ultraviolet disinfection being the most common amongst competitors, foggers, which is the one used by the Breezy One, and sprayers. It is important to consider that while from the top 28 top competitors on the Boston Analytics report, 43% of them are located in the US alone. Now, I'm going to point out that Novoa uses a stationary fogger, while the rest use automated or stationary UV devices for those US companies. Lastly, only a partnership between Siemens and Ockma have managed to build an automated robot-controlled fogger robot, which means that it's not an autonomous robot. Now that we've covered the market and the competitors, the team will present the roadmap proposed.
To begin, we want to show you a simple schematic of our global scaling roadmap, where we have delineated 4 steps to reach our goal. The first step is to target big customers. As mentioned before, the main advantage of Built with Robots is the ability of Breezy One to disinfect large areas effectively in a very short amount of time. There are multiple applications where there are large areas which may have heavy foot traffic and will require a resilient disinfection solution. But the real question is, how do you reach out to these potential customers and decision makers? The short answer is by proactively presenting the solution. First, the company must identify who those decision makers are. Secondly, the company will need to identify how to approach these decision makers. For example, let's take the Director of Aviation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Nikia Allen, who is in charge of the day-to-day operations of the local airports in Albuquerque. In this case, she would be the person to reach out to for the company to introduce the solution for the airport needs. Similarly, Built with Robots will need to identify these decision makers for schools, warehouses, machine shops, etc., and present the solution that they offer. If Building with Robots wanted to continue reaching out to other airports in the country, we would also recommend to prepare a pitch to the right people. For example, we can see that the board of directors for the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport regarding commercial development meets every month. Built with Robots should be able to present a short pitch during this meeting, which will help raise interest on the solution offered. Not only could this bring revenue on the company, but also increase the attention of other potential customers and potential employees. We definitely encourage Built with Robots to prepare pitches for board of director meetings for airports, school systems, large retail stores, casinos, etc., throughout the country. So as mentioned by Built with Robots, they are currently targeting $15 million a year of revenue by the first quarter of 2023. Based on their base price and operating fees, Built with Robots will need to sell at least 465 units per year or 39 units per month. Fortunately, their current capability allows them to build 50 units per month. But robots don't build themselves, so it is paramount to focus on hiring the best talent and assemble the right team for the company. The team will have to be comprised of motivated individuals who are excited about solving the big problems throughout the world. And while engineers and technicians are in the front lines of this effort, we suggest Built with Robots to also focus their attention on hiring staff, which will help with outreach, identifying customers, and marketing and showcasing of the product. Since we cannot expect the robot demand to be linear, Built with Robots should forecast their hiring pattern based on the revenue streams and number of contracts established.
So while only a handful of competitors offer a solution that competes with the breezy one, there are many companies that offer these solutions as well. So how do we stand out from the rest? Building a brand around the breezy one will allow Build with Robots to develop trust among potential customers and also gain faith of investors as well. Last year, 2 robots that are displayed on this slide captured the attention of everyone on internet by claiming that they could disinfect any location. They received the much needed attention for their product and its capabilities as well. This is what we need for our breezy one. We need to create a strong media presence for our product and its capabilities. Next slide, please. So while only a handful of top competitors offer a solution, similarly, we believe that Build with Robots should generate more content on its own whenever possible. So while we appreciate the video shared by us by the company, we believe that more wonderful content can be and should be generated for internet users as well. For example, Twitter is a powerful tool to reach an audience all over the world, and Build with Robots is not as active as we want it to be on the Twitter. When we look at the industry, around 2/3 of the companies on the world are active on Twitter, and 92% of these companies tweet daily, and 80% of users has mentioned a brand at least once. These are just few of the powerful benefits that can arise from introducing social media to the company's growth portfolio, and it will help us with the company's growth in long run as well. Also, it is also extremely important to allow content creators and influencers to generate content as well. So funding momentum for the disinfecting robots are very high because based on the current requirements and needs. So while Build with Robots is already an established company, finding a new source of funding is also important. But it is relatively easy when we have a working product. Here we have listed wide variety of funding sources that are available for Build with Robots based on companies' goals, both in the market area and also on the management side. They can look into whether they want to go for venture capitals or equity firms that are highly interested in this area, or they want to look for some form of governmental support from Small Business Administration as well. Next slide, please. Lastly, how we should differentiate Breezy One from other disinfecting robots. The unique features of this robot positions itself very distinctively in the market as it is able to work autonomously and also adapting to the floor plans, communicate with the supervisor, and stop when needed. In short, we need to market Breezy One as a solution, not just as a product. One example would be how the Breezy One can operate in areas that are open continuously. For this, let's take an example of casino in Las Vegas that are typically open 24/7 and have people all the time. This is where Breezy One and Build with Robots should work along with the customers and design a specific floor plan for that layout and disinfecting the area while ensuring the safety of these customers as well. Next slide, please. Build with Robots is already looking at this strategy from a solution standpoint by offering an entire platform with different devices to cover all types of areas which may need disinfection. This will open up other markets such as public transportation, residential, and commercial services as well. The funding opportunities that we presented acts as some guiding principles for the company to look into based on the market needs and also company's growth and vision. Next slide.
Lastly, just touching on the effectiveness based on the information provided by Build with Robots. Over a 5-year span, manual disinfection becomes 3 times pricier than the cost of a Breezy One to disinfect the same amount of area, which leads to the final question: are robots taking away jobs? The answer is no. Collaborative robots will help to maintain the workforce healthy and efficient by removing personnel from heavy, repetitive, and risky tasks. And with that, I would like to open up the floor for questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, guys. That was a great presentation. And we'll now take any questions from the judges. First question, what is the key issue you would emphasize to entice big customers?
Yes, so I think in my perspective, the biggest key would be to emphasize on the effectiveness of the disinfection. As we all know, I think all the teams have mentioned the chemistry, the DFM 500. It's 99.9999% effective, which is it's really good at eliminating all of the pathogens, including the COVID virus, bacteria, even spores like anthrax. It's been heavily validated by labs throughout the US. The other thing is also through the economic standpoint that in the long run, you end up having a break-even point of under 2 years versus if you just hired personnel to clean and disinfect. Anybody else has anything to add?
With what Jesus said, I think these are very, very good points. And I think to market your location, whether that be an airport or schools or even casinos, as being disinfected by one of the top robots worldwide will definitely bring about more customers. And for example, in the case of schools, perhaps allow parents to send children to schools with a more peace of mind.
Thank you. Okay, what insight did Boston Analytics provide, and were there any recent acquisitions in this space?
So far, from detailed research that we have done, we don't think there were any more acquisitions that were made public yet. But regarding the insights that it provided, it really helped us to see how companies are starting, like, when they are starting and where exactly is the market as a whole. And it also helped us to see how the Build with Robots company can take advantage of the current situation and also the strong growing market through looking for other investors or capital ventures, etc., like that as well.
Just to add to that point, there were basically two interesting acquisitions that happened in the market by, I think it was the Media Group that acquired KUKA Robotics, and there was Ecolab who acquired BioCal from England. And that one was an interesting acquisition because basically BioCal is one of the main competitors. They use the same type of technology with fogging. However, they use vaporized hydrogen peroxide, and they don't have an automated robot. It's basically a device that gets taken in and they fog an entire room. And then they have to basically eliminate all the residual vapors in the room. So those were basically the two main ones that we were able to see from the report. However, we don't, since they're not competing in the US, and second, since they don't have a robot that is autonomous, it's not, we see it more as a substitute as opposed to a direct competitor.
Thank you. Do you think access to key opinion makers is the primary path to get contracts?
I think that definitely is a large step to get the contracts. I don't know if it's the most important one. Definitely on this time, I think a lot of the decisions, or most of them, are dictated by things that we see online. For example, reviews on Amazon, something as simple as that, YouTube views, things like this. So if we have people who are influencing the potential customers from Build with Robots, perhaps we can create a more attractive scenario because they're able to display how the robot performs under more realistic scenarios, as opposed to just seeing pictures online and reading a blog, for example.
I think to add more on that, I believe people who are experts in the field are really important. I believe our Breezy One is a very innovative product, but for now we need to make it a disruptive product in the market. So I think for that, getting opinion from the experts who knows what market is, where market is going and what market is expecting, it will be really helpful. And also it will help us to design our Breezy 2 and Breezy 3 in a much more better way, so that we can target the specific need that's arising in the market right now.
Thank you. I like the fact that you reviewed the need to expand resources such as employees. Did you consider component suppliers as an obstacle to expansion?
In this case, yes, we can see them as a potential limitation because they will directly influence your ability to maintain a manufacturing volume. However, based on the video from Build with Robots, they claim that they have the capability at the moment to produce up to 50 units per month, which is at least in their basic estimation, it's more than what they need to meet their what they're hoping to reach in terms of revenue for the first quarter of 2023. So, however, if they are looking to move to a different location, especially if they're going overseas, perhaps they're going to have to identify different types of suppliers so they can still maintain the level of, one, production volume, and two, the level of quality.
Thank you. Did you target Native American held casinos specifically?
Not necessarily. We were thinking just, for example, locally, the comparison between the casinos here in New Mexico and the casinos in Las Vegas. So, for example, the casinos here in New Mexico are typically not open throughout the night. So they could almost behave sort of like disinfecting a school or disinfecting a warehouse. That if you don't have a 24/7 crew that is running, you would have a time that is allocated for the disinfection. However, if you go to Las Vegas, you want those large casinos to be running 24/7. There's always people around. So that's why we wanted to emphasize on how it's important for Build with Robots to provide specific solutions for their customers and accommodate their constraints in order for them to provide them with a solution and not just to sell them a product.
What are the technical advantages required to improve the TRL, and how would you acquire or develop the technology?
Well, on this case, the TRL was already very high. I think I'm getting some feedback. The TRL level was already very high, and we just estimated between 8 and 9, mostly because we have seen how the prototypes have worked. And I think at this point, based on our research, what we can see is what we could benefit the Breezy One would be a fogger that is able to adjust the angle as it's moving, because at the moment the angle of the foggers is fixed. So that would be, giving it more degrees of freedom so they can increase the spread area and perhaps do it more effectively in higher places or places like harder to reach, like under desks or things like that.
And to add on that, I think at this point, since we have like a working product, the TRL is very high. But I think if we are looking into specific target market areas like households or certain areas, we may have to adjust a little bit based on the need. For example, in household, maybe we want to disinfect our house before we enter it. So we may have to remotely able to start the disinfection. So when we consider that particular type of market, I think we have to add a little bit one or more added extra qualities or like the advantages for our product, like ability to communicate via cell phone or through an app or things like that. But those things come with like a specific need for specific market. So it's based on which market we are exactly targeting in future.
Thank you. We have run out of time, but real quick, a couple words. What specific resource would be the most impactful? Money, staff, market feedback, etc., to scale from present?
So I think we discussed, our team discussed this, and we believe that staff, it's all about outreach and trying to get the product out there. And in terms of market feedback, we don't think at the moment it's very important, because analogous to the Ford statement that people didn't want cars, they wanted faster horses. In our case, if we went to the market, they would just say, we just want more people to disinfect. We don't want a robot that will do it. So we're doing a technology push into the market. And so in our case, it would be most important to focus on the staff, to have the right people to create the correct links.
Thank you, guys. You guys did great. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate you being here. And all your judges' questions, thank you very much. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to fill out the judges' scorecard. Again, this is UNM, University of New Mexico, team number 1. Thank you.
All right. Well, glad to be here. I'm Taylor Uselman, and with me on the team is Clark Berg and Cory Carnes from UNM, and as well as Brian Fickett from Western New Mexico. One of our members, Cory Carnes, having some issues with his video, so bear with us on this. I'll be taking over her section. Okay. So the first case is Build with Robots, the Breezy One. And this is a robotics firm that's based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, founded and the original intention for the technology to be for painting at construction sites. But of course, once the COVID-19 pandemic hit, that company rapidly pivoted to disinfection. And the core product is the Breezy One. So the Breezy One has 2 industrial foggers, and it has the LiDAR and 3D cameras to map facilities. It can use these to help disinfect 100,000 square feet in under an hour, and it has a great disinfection rate at 99.99 disinfectant, killing pathogens. And it's great at that fogs get places where other disinfectants can't, like UV disinfectants or UV methods, for instance. And they have collaborations with the Sandia National Lab. Okay, so before we present our scaling strategy, we wanted to introduce the challenges that we've identified to scaling. So with the coronavirus pandemic prompting a disinfectant craze, the Breezy One has wonderful potential in the short run. This is especially apparent in the analysis provided by Boston Analytics, where funding momentum is currently high for disinfecting robots, and which we will also demonstrate momentarily. However, the global demand for disinfectant applications are transient, which means there's only a short window to get Breezy One into market. This is especially true for the United States, where COVID-19 cases have decreased and where there's been an effective vaccine rollout. So also, according to a research article published in the journal Nature, there's evidence that surface transmission of the coronavirus is not a significant source of infection, which could also further limit the need for Breezy One. Still, COVID variants on the rise. There's increased likelihood of needing booster vaccines in the coming years. And with increased potential for lasting weariness of infectious disease, the Breezy One's immediate short-term success could facilitate its continued use for disinfection in the long run. But as disinfection applications inevitably decrease, the market for Breezy One also decreases, and thus it demands diversified applications in the future. So with that, I'll hand it off to Clark, who will present our short-term scaling strategy.
Thank you, Taylor. So our strategy to address short-term scaling challenges for Build with Robots involves working with regional, state, and local departments of education to get Breezy One in schools now before the need for disinfection application ceases. So CDC guidelines for reopening schools mandates that disinfection and cleaning protocols be implemented to keep students safe. And Build with Robots should capitalize on this. And the best way to do so is to take advantage of the elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, or ESSER funds, that are part of the COVID-19 relief packages that have been passed by Congress. So they appropriated $190 billion to state educational agencies, and states have considerable flexibility in choosing how to spend these funds, including applying them towards cleaning and sanitizing purchases. So in order to receive these ESSER funds, state educational agencies need to apply for them. So then the question becomes, who do we work with to get Breezy One in schools? Well, one good option is to work with the regional level with the Western Governors Association. Submitting a proposal to them would be a good way to get the attention of all the state governments in the Western region. Another option would be to focus on particular state governments to get Breezy One in schools. So we suggest focusing on 3 states: New Mexico, because it is the home state for Build with Robots, and then Texas and California, because they are the largest states with the largest budgets in the region. In New Mexico, you could work with the New Mexico Public Education Department, and it would also be advantageous to get certified New Mexico True as a locally built product, which would help you take advantage of your home state's willingness to buy local. In Texas, you would work with the Texas Education Agency, which has been appropriated $19.2 billion. And in California, you would work with the California Department of Education, which has been appropriated $23.4 billion in ESSER funding. So one other way to generate some publicity and show that Breezy One has been deployed would be to get these machines in your local school district in the Albuquerque Public Schools. Albuquerque has a buy local initiative that could help sway the minds of local decision makers. Alternatively, you could also identify the largest school districts in the region and focus on them, such as those in Houston and Los Angeles. So to take advantage of ESSER funding, Build with Robots should hire a school funding liaison with extensive experience writing grants for state education departments. This way, Build with Robots won't just be pitching Breezy One to these departments of education, but will be facilitating their grant writing process to get Breezy One deployed. These states would be much more likely to include funding for Build with Robots in their grant proposals if they don't have to put any effort into writing the section of their grant that funds disinfection equipment. So we have identified the deputy officials in New Mexico, Texas, and California whose departments Build with Robots would want to work with to get Breezy One into grant proposals. These officials are the ones in charge of finance and/or grant applications for their respective states. So this short-term strategy would be the best way to work with state departments of education and take advantage of federal COVID-19 relief funding to get Breezy One deployed now before the demand for disinfection goes away. So I'd like to pass it off to Bride now to address long-term scaling strategies for Build with Robots.
As we look at the long-term scaling opportunities that Breezy One has, we do know that the disinfecting craze or disinfecting of COVID is going to decrease, and the market share on that is being flooded with other opportunities from other sources. So we wanted to look at something that would enhance Breezy One's capabilities. And one of the things is to continue looking at the original intent was that Breezy One was created was the painting at construction sites. We recommend that you could continue to look at that as one of the next long-term phases of the product. The next application we started looking at is greenhouses. Greenhouses are becoming more and more popular as there's less water to grow plants, and there's less land, and there's more population, so we have more people needing food. Breezy One we feel is very adequate for this. Doesn't need a whole lot more modifications to be used in greenhouses. And it has 2 tanks that can disperse chemicals, either the same chemical, or we can disperse 2 different chemicals at the same time, which would reduce cost. Again, these are chemicals that would help the plants to grow, or even fungus type chemicals. And next slide. To go along with greenhouses, another aspect is our incoming industry is vertical farming. Vertical farming is where you have a warehouse that is located in a major popular area such as New York City or Chicago, or even in China. And they grow the plants there locally, and the plants are grown in trays and in shelves that go from the floor all the way to the ceiling. This is an emerging industry. There's about $12.77 billion in this industry between now and 2026, and it's growing about 24.6%. We think that Breezy One has some good applications for this industry because there's because of the closeness of the closed warehouse facility, and it's just like the greenhouses. It can disperse the chemicals in a readily fashion, more feasible for the plants. Next slide. In summary, our disinfecting applications may not be relevant for long, but our short-term strategy is to go ahead, work with the schools, get with the grant writer, and get the product into the schools in a quick fashion, and get some money generating for this product so that it can go to the long-term scaling strategy, which is to go into greenhouses and vertical farming. Again, the product needs little to no product development necessary, and it's a growing market. And this is a market that's surely to expand with the growing population. And in summary, that concludes our presentation. We'd like to thank you for your time and listening to this, and we're open for questions.
Thank you very much, team. You guys did great, and now we'll just wait for some questions from the judges.
Okay, thank you.
ESSER is how you said it, Clark?
Yeah, the ESSER funding.
Okay. Has ESSER identified disinfection as a category for funding?
Fortunately, yes. One of the specific parts of ESSER funding is specifically, because there's a lot of flexibility in these grants, you can ask for whatever you want, but they do suggest that a portion of your grant funding be for disinfection and cleaning supplies. So there is a portion of these funds that are earmarked specifically for disinfection applications.
Thank you. Interesting vertical farming application. What competition exists here? And did Boston Analytics help with this market status?
So as far as vertical farming, so the competition for that is only starting to kind of build up. So in the United States, there's only a couple of really big vertical farms. They're mostly located in the San Francisco Bay Area. As far as around the world, Europe is a particular leader in vertical farming. So actually getting into vertical farming in Europe may be a little more difficult. As far as the Boston Analytics material is concerned, we did look at that. So as far as funding momentum, was one of the main slides that we looked at from the Boston Analytics materials for that. The funding momentum for the disinfection robots was high, along with a couple of other types of robots. Agriculture robots were medium, so not super high at the moment, but we feel that as applications for agriculture robots start to diversify and you do get these indoor farms and greenhouses expanding across the world, that the funding momentum for them will increase.
Thank you. Are there technical modifications to the robot required to enter the greenhouse and the vertical market?
So Brian?
I do believe that there will be a little bit of modification in order to reach the plants in an adequate manner, but very little modification. Especially in the vertical farming, we do believe that there needs to be probably some nozzles that need to be extended up higher to get some of the higher level plants. But we do not anticipate that that'd be a very expensive modification, and it could be readily done.
And the way those industrial foggers were producing fog, like from the video that they provided, like when Breezy One was going through the bathroom at the Sunport, I'm pretty sure it was the Sunport. I mean, you saw how much fog those things produced. So we're pretty certain that if you could just extend the range of that, that's pretty much the only modification you would need to make.
Thank you. And I believe you also answered Mr. Giasoli's question about how you imagine getting the fog into the higher trays. If there's anything you want to add to that.
Just mostly the only thing would be to either create boom arms for it, or a more stable version would be to just make it taller and wider. So not too much modification there. The core technology remains the same.
Even something, I'll add on to that. Even something just like increasing the velocity to get the spray to reach a little farther, things like that, you know. But it shouldn't be too.
Thank you. We have about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
Is there a need to pre-map the space that is going to be cleaned? And if so, does this require training?
So from what I understood, the smart mapping technology that is already available on Breezy One should essentially map the open spaces between the rows easily. There was a lot of cloud-based functionality with Breezy One, so where you could designate individual paths. One of the easy things about a greenhouse is that your layout isn't exactly going to change much. So you can designate zones for the robot to move through. And then identify, especially in a greenhouse, you're going to have specialized units within the greenhouse that house the different plants. So if you can pre-map those and say you need to apply one chemical to one area of the greenhouse, then you easily just click a button, have it go over there. So I don't envision the actual mapping of the facility to be a huge problem, especially for a robot that has already been demonstrated to work in these big industrial and public spaces to do disinfection work.
And I was going to add on to that too. Even though it wouldn't require much, generally that first pass through and getting the robot trained on the space would require somebody with a little bit more expertise. And so that would provide more like service opportunities to essentially get the robot installed into its location. Or if you said it could be an opportunity as like a training service instead to help the individuals that are able to do it themselves.
Thank you. Is there a perception in schools today that a new means of disinfection is needed immediately?
See, I think that as right now, yes. But like we said, we think that opportunity is decreasing, but right now, absolutely, because you are still in the height of the COVID pandemic, and especially with numbers coming out of countries like India right now, people are still especially freaked out about getting disinfection applications into spaces where their kids are going to be, because they're still worried that these this disease is going to spread throughout their family and their community. So, again, because we are approaching the tail end of this, it's not going to be something you can capitalize on for much longer.
Thank you. How clean does the floor need to be for the robot?
From what I envision, this robot I've seen go through the Explorer Museum here in Albuquerque, as well as the Albuquerque Sunport. And it's not exactly the cleanest area to begin with, especially an airport where people have been through all day, especially with transition of surfaces from carpet to the tile and then the bumps that go between there. I don't think it needs to be especially clean. One of the interesting applications we thought of for the robot as we were looking at greenhouses was perhaps doing outdoor space for fertilizer and fungicide application. Of course, you'd have to work with the wind, but then again, you'd also have to work with difficult terrain. So as Build with Robots continues to evolve their machine, perhaps including more of an all-terrain function in their robot would help them access more spaces so that people don't have to move this robot around in their spaces.
Thank you. Any immediate opportunities in the military government-based spaces, particularly outside of the United States? And is there funding available for this?
So one of the pertinent applications for the robot is going to be to disinfect any facility. So immediately disinfecting military facilities is probably going to be a viable opportunity for them. As far as funding goes, the DoD does do a lot of grant work. I don't know specifically with Breezy One and disinfection applications because we didn't look especially at military applications for this, but the applications remain for any space that needs to be disinfected. And I'm certain that under the new administration in the Department of Defense and the military, that disinfection and taking COVID seriously within the armed forces is probably a serious concern for our administration right now. So I imagine those opportunities are there.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Does it talk?
That's a good question. You know, it talks to the cloud. That's as much as I think we know. Yeah. We know that when you say its name in the museum, it gives a nice pirouette. But other than that, I think that the mostly communication is from a digital display screen on the robot, as well as its communication with the Internet of Things.
And real quick, assuming growth, what is the manufacturing strategy?
So that's an excellent question. We had considered this a little bit when we were discussing Breezy One. It's right now they're producing 50 units kind of a month at home, which is not a huge number. So standard manufacturing practices and making modular components for it is going to be an ideal way for it. So contracting with manufacturers who can standardize production of the individual parts of Breezy One would go a long way toward getting it into a production scale that is good for a global level. But so mostly it's working with specialized manufacturers, hopefully at home, because I like domestic manufacturing, in order to get more standardized modules and components made.
Guys, you did a great job on your presentation. And judges, again, this is UNM team number 2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon. My name is Blairre Flores, and I'm speaking on behalf of New Mexico State University. My team members are Dylan Smith and Rachel Livingston. Today we will be discussing Build with Robots. More specifically, we're going to be discussing Breezy. Breezy is a robot for sanitation, and the scale-up process agenda is going to be the new revenue model, strategy to win, market scalability, business focus, potential opportunities for market growth, funding strategy, and expanding innovations. This is the new revenue model, and it is a subscription-based model. We recommend implementing a subscription-based model while simultaneously expanding the business-to-business direct sales model. This will help increase profitability by expanding entry into vertical markets. Subscription-based model expands the market to small businesses as well, who've been highly affected by COVID-19. The direct market would be schools, but then we would move into hospitals. So our beachhead market is schools, and then we would scale into healthcare. Referring to Boston Analytics, this graph shows the 5 largest school districts in the United States. Boston Analytics states that the US has the highest number of robotic companies, showing that there's an interest in this market and investment opportunities. Target market for both business-to-business sales and subscription model will be based in the United States. Targeting the United States reduces distribution costs, and once BWR breaks even, then we can outsource manufacturing and assembly to other countries and further expand into the international market. This slide is our our business focus recommendations. First, we are going to discuss marketing, continuous improvement, technical and customer service, and production. After looking at the Boston Analytics influencer list, we selected Evan Kursel. He is a co-founder and chief digital evangelist of the eVira Health, a digital healthcare marketing company. He also serves as a social media business advisor to UC Strategies, a telecommunications company. He was also attractive because he had a high social media following. In terms of continuous improvement, while expanding sales on the Breezy, BWR will continue to engage with end users by surveying customers and using customer feedback data to optimize future models. This will increase customer satisfaction, ensure technological expansion as the market needs grow, and scale the BWR past 3 to 5 years. Technical and customer support. As BWR expands within the US, they will scale their technical team while also expanding its customer service call center. We recommend that the customer service call center be located in New Mexico, as BWR currently partners with the state of New Mexico and the New Mexico Finance Authority, leveraging New Mexico tax incentive packages. And lastly, production. Our recommendation is to consider outsourcing manufacturing and distribution from Mexico in order to reduce margins, increase profits, and tend to other areas such as marketing and building a franchise. Next, we'd like to discuss potential opportunities. These are vertical markets, and the most threatened sectors that we were able to identify were healthcare, hotels, restaurants, museums, transportation and warehouse, wholesale trade. We found this information through McKinsey & Company. Again, using Boston Analytics, we looked at the funding strategies. And we noticed the funding momentum is very high in disinfectant robots. Continuing to discuss funding, we looked at investment firms and possible acquisitions. We selected Techstars and Google venture because they were based in the United States. And the assumption would be that they would invest in a US company. Again, that is an assumption. However, they have invested in robotic businesses as well. For possible acquisitions, we chose Stryker and Berman Capital because they are US based as well. Also, they would help us get into the healthcare sector. Briefly, we're going to look at our competitors based in the United States. We have multiple competitors. However, we feel that the Breezy business model and product are unique compared to our competitors. Lastly, expanding innovations. We would like for you to consider these horizontals: commercial real estate, optimal layouts for sanitation for architects and site selectors, robotic verification of sanitation method effectiveness, and lastly, collecting biological data. That is all that we have to present, and we thank you again for this amazing opportunity. And I would like to take your questions.
Thank you so much, guys. You did really great. We have, you finished a couple minutes early, so we have a couple extra minutes for questions from the judges. Did you analyze the manufacturing cost differential between Mexico, Asia, and the US?
We did not, but I can explain why we chose Mexico. Mexico, we felt, was close to the US. And again, the assumption would be that manufacturing costs would be less than the United States. Also, we considered that we did not have to do any shipping overseas. So this is what helped us make that decision.
Thank you. Great use of Boston Analytics. Any other insights provided with respect to emerging markets?
This one as well. We did. We considered, again, selling the mapping abilities of the Breezy to real estate for better infrastructure. Again, selling biological data to, universities. So yeah, we felt there was a lot of opportunities in those sectors.
Thank you. If the company can only choose one model, which model would you start with, subscription-based or schools, and why and how?
So I would recommend school because we have a large market for it. And I would focus on those 5 large school districts. And then I think the subscription model is more attractive for small businesses. So I would, again, select schools.
Thank you. Could you expand on funding opportunities for each of the scaling strategies?
So I think that the data supports that investors are investing in robotics. But I think that the key is getting involved in the healthcare system. And a lot of the US investors, again, are healthcare investors, and they've invested in businesses that offer healthcare services. Yeah, I think that's my answer for that one.
Thank you. Can you tell us more about your proposed subscription model?
So actually, you know, we heard a lot when we recommended the subscription model. We thought small businesses that could not afford to purchase the robot, that they had the option of either leasing it for a full, you know, per month. But we also recommended for even smaller businesses, but that still need the services of sanitation, that they exercise that 21-day window mentioned in the material, and having the Breezy come every 21 days as a subscription. And so I think that there's those two options within that model.
So the subscription would be 21-day based, and it would help in eliminating overhead fees such as repairing and things like that. So it would save them money in the long run.
Thank you. Is there any precedent to subscription model robotics-based businesses to draw from?
I think through our analysis of the Boston Analytics, we did not find that. We didn't see any other robotic businesses offering the subscription model.
Thank you. There is about 8 minutes left for questions. Who would be your first target subscribers?
Again, I am thinking based off businesses affected by COVID-19. I think outside of small businesses and schools that we've discussed, I would probably do the restaurant and entertainment businesses because they, again, were affected by COVID-19. And for some, I mean, sanitation really was dependent on whether they can open back up or not.
Thank you. If you could do one thing tomorrow to boost sales, what would you do?
Well, first I have to say, I thought you were going to ask if I wanted to do anything tomorrow, and I would say sleep, but that's how the question started out. It sounded like, but what would I do tomorrow if I had the opportunity to work with BWR? I think I would first ask for more information. I would love to have had like a lot more information on their business and finances. But I would meet with the team and share our scaling ideas and start brainstorming. I think working as a team is the most important first step.
To kind of go off what Blair said, having the same shared vision, I feel is very important when scaling at this opportunity.
you. What would you propose as a pricing model for subscribers?
So, and this is referencing one of the companies that I know that their goal for Q1 was reaching $1 million. So I think, I'm sorry, actually I think it was 1 million units. So if that is their goal for 2023 Q1, I think that we would look at the direct business to business robots sold and, you know, start there and figure out what a monthly payment subscription model would look like. Again, with the focus of attaining that goal for the first quarter of 2021. I'm sorry, 2023.
Thank you. How important is the lowering of absenteeism to eventual potential clients?
I think I loved, out of the data, I think this was my favorite. Prior to getting into business, I was an elementary school teacher. And so having students absent definitely impacted their learning. So yeah, it's huge, it's major. And I don't think that most people correlate that with economic impact.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes left. Do you think that more product lines are needed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just assumed it was a question. I would say yes. I think that is a great avenue to explore. Again, I would like a lot more data to make that decision, but that's definitely an option that I think BWR can explore.
Thank you. Who do you think would be the strongest supporter? School boards, teacher unions, parents, or students, and why?
So again, having some experience in public education, it definitely would not be at the school level. So I think that the reality is that it has to come from the top. And usually the top involves politics. And then eventually to like here locally, NMPED, to implement it, and then to the districts, and then districts to schools. So again, I think it would probably be legislator.
Thank you.
And then adding on to that question, I think students would also be great supporters because it'd be so cool to have robots in your school, wouldn't you think? Robots to go and clean after you and things like that.
Well, that's a great point.
Thank you. Can teacher unions be used to support this initiative?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think teachers faced that issue this year. They wanted what's best for their students. They wanted to be normal, but they also wanted their safety ensured. So I think unions and are definitely great advocates for the BWR.
Great, thank you so much, guys. That was time, and congratulations, you did really well on your presentation. We will let you guys go, and then the judges, this is NMSU, or New Mexico State University.
Thank you so much
Thank
for this
you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Portland State University. Today we're going to talk about case one, Breezy One from robots. So this is our team members. This is Angel.
I'm Aynur, and our friend is Ashwaq. I think she has a technical problem, and Ozgul.
So they are our mentors, Professor Turul Daim and Professor Kelly Cohen. So why robots are the right solution for jobs like disinfection in public? Reduce stability. Also, it's high availability, 24/7, all year around. Most cost effective, so it can be cheaper than traditional labor, and also, of course, that no one asks for a raise. So, why is scale up building with robots? So, scaling a company means finding ways to leverage it to a higher level of operation and success. So, by scaling a company, the benefits are not only within the company, partnerships, supply chains, and the local community. So, this is one of the key. So, this is a company profile from Build with Robots. So, it's a company founded in 2017. And its short-term goals is to increase its revenue up to 50 million a year and grow its workforce from 23 to by first quarter of 2023. So the purpose of the company is build and supply automation tools to make workers' lives better. So with the pandemic, we have like a core opportunity. So in this case, we want to emphasize Breezy One. So the main goal of Breezy One is to open schools to have students with in-person education across the United States. So this product or this robot addresses the challenge, but the some challenges. The access to the right decision maker in the school system. This is because like every school system works independently. So to build at scale, the company needs to be able to have a big audience. So how is gonna this happen? So the company relies on the Breezy One's capability. So like it's instant communication, location in real time, identification of disinfected areas, efficacy, reduces speed and ease of use. So right now, the company is manufacturing 50 units per month and is up on demand. So we as a team about the product life cycle of this product. So we think now Breezy One is in the introduction phase. So very soon what is that they can the company the market value, which was which was valued by $1.9 billion in 2019, and because of COVID, like there is this big opportunity to be part of this market. So, for example, to see that there are streams also selling.
Angel, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Your sound is really choppy, and we're having a hard time understanding you. I don't know if there's anything you could do, or if one of your teammates could take over.
Oh, can you hear me better?
That is much better, yes.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that the product life.
Maybe not.
No. So Aynur, can you take over?
Better now.
Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. I was saying that the product life cycle, the Breeze, like a great opportunity to take part of the market share. So because of COVID, take advantage of the revenue streams like parts, repairs, cleaning, and disinfectant products. So right now, for the current market and the maturity level of the company, scaling off offers better funding momentum for that they would get through acquisition or exit. As you can see right now, the funding momentum is high. You can see here in red. So we have this SWOT analysis. I'm going to talk about some points about the strengths. So the product is very innovative and so also the rental and buying option, the customers are going to have the financial resources to buy that kind of robot. There are some weaknesses like the manufacturing capability, like the information about cost. That was something that we have a little bit of problem finding. So there are opportunities like expand the markets to new segments like airports, hospitals, universities. So we can, there are the opportunities to add, meet customer needs, increase market share, and also like, for example, new pandemics, right? This could be like opportunity. It could be like a threat or opportunity, but we decided to put opportunity. So these are like, there are similar products, political issues, and competitors from all over the world. So this is the scale up robots. What's the next stage for the company? So if they're going to work in the local area of New Mexico, they need to expand to like the states that are around New Mexico. Also, opportunity for funding. For example, we recommend to work with companies like InnoSpark and Syntel. This funding we have like 3 companies and also the operational footprint. Influencers is a good opportunity to help the company in this process. Two influencers like Evan Crystal and Hassan Rashid, because they have experience working in the industry. So the next stage should be like customer acquisition, recommendation of our customers, by the customers of the company they can replicate and reach to new customers. So new technologies, like for example, like adding new features to the existing product, and then finally come up with a business model. So these are our recommendations, like from the previous slide, like prioritize robot disinfection, market segments based on criteria such as safety, efficiency, and essentiality. Customize product to niche market to better serve this market.
Technologies, establish and expand networks.
I'm so sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah.
You've been good and then cutting out and then good. There is a suggestion that maybe if you just turn off your video, then your voice will be clear. And
okay.
I've paused your time, so you aren't being penalized for any of this time. I apologize.
Oh no worries. So that was our last.
Okay, maybe you could go a couple of slides, go back to slide 11 and start over just to make sure that the judges heard all of your recommendations.
Oh yeah, sure. So this is like the scaling up process for build with robots. So the first one is the planning. Like right now, if the company is working
we recommend.
I'm so sorry again. So turning off your video didn't work. Could one of your teammates possibly present this slide and the next?
Okay, Anha, can you go to the last slide, please?
Sure.
Yeah, this is our recommendations. Sorry for the problem. So the first one is they prioritize the robotic disinfection market segments based on the criteria such as safety, efficiency, and essentiality. In this perspective, they need to customize the product to niche market to better serve clients and increase market share. And another one, develop technology roadmaps of key for core products and key enabling technologies. And also the establishing and the expanding the network with supply chain partners and complementary businesses. And the last one is the business model development. By developing business model, they can consider robot leasing and fee for service models and examine the opportunities for improved customer acquisition through these models and associate the funding opportunities actually. Yeah, this is all our recommendations. Yeah, sorry for the problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just to be clear, that was the end. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I apologize for the difficulties, but we can now take questions from the judges. The first question is, where would you focus initially to scale customer acquisition?
Oh, first, I think we need to we go from if we want to reach, for example, airports, we need to start reaching who's gonna be like the right person in charge of, let's say, like the airport of Portland. right? So we need to identify our main contacts, and then after that we can like start like proving like this product is working, and then like trying to reach like new customers.
Your SWOT indicates that manufacturing capacity is a weakness. What would be required to expand capacity?
Well, to expand capacity, I mean, of course, we need to reach, but also we need to have this action with agencies in order to get funds if the company already is problem of having a limited process, right? Get or to hire like an, I mean, like this a key advantage for the company, like hiring right people that can feel like this, and it has like this goal in mind in order to solve collaborate situation that we are facing.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Something. Of course, there are another related technologies such as like temperature screening, and they have already robots. Breeze One, it's called Breeze One. For example, the temperature screening is the screen maybe 50 to 150 people up to a 30-meter radius per minute and report abnormalities to officers on duty. Maybe they can use these technologies by using some sensor, by adding some new sensors to their the robots. Maybe they can improve manufacturing capacity.
I'm so sorry. It looks like I'm having technical difficulties. Also, can you guys hear me now? Okay. The next question is it being suggested that it is cost advantageous to single out specific sub areas within a building to be sanitized?
Yeah, I think it could be like an advantage. For example, areas where I mean people in the working areas can touch the surface. For example, on the floors is not, but it's not the key. But the key disinfection would be in the areas where we as a people we touch, or we can have like a direct contact with the surface. So where we need like sanitized surfaces.
Thank you. We have about 3 minutes left for questions. Next question, what is your suggestion to fund R&D on your new product lines?
That question. Actually, maybe the focus on robots and the as I told you before, the camera and sensing technologies would be better for research and development, because this one is, you know, when we look at the social, technological, and the environmental perspective of the these technologies, is of course those are fully automated, touchless, and contactless, and they reduce risk of frontline and staff exposure, and they don't need to surface hygiene, and it can work 24 and the 7 week, something like that. And also they can use in the airport, hospitals, shopping malls, hotels, libraries, theaters, cinemas, something like that. So the focusing the some like multiple camera vision, single camera vision, infrared range, projected camera would be better.
Thank you. Last question I think we have time for. Where would you place investment money to have the most impact on market penetration?
I feel like the company to put or invest money on marketing, like in order to reach sales. Is that they're gonna need to produce more product or like new robots. So that's gonna be like the key element to grow the company.
Thank you so much, guys. Your time is up. We really appreciate your presentation. It was really well, and we apologize about the technical difficulties, but again, we thank you. And judges, this again is the team from Portland State University.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'm Mike Lampasona.
Hi, I'm Damian Villaramo.
Hi, I'm Nazar Kovic.
And I'm Austin Taylor. So today, our goal today is to provide a specific set of recommendations that are meant to scale the Build with Robots company from its current market and product stances. We have 5 recommendations that are offered that are each compelling, that each have compelling rationale, strategic actions, analysis, funding, and payoffs. Our inspiration came from our professor who helped guide us with our project. The best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. We had to go through and sort through a lot of ideas before we can hammer down the 5 that we wanted to pursue. So this is definitely the quote that helped inspire us to pick the 5 ideas that we wanted to pursue. So we allocated around 60 ideas, and we combined other ideas that we thought would be good to help with those. We used a consensus to decide if it was what would be more appealing based on like appeal. We did this based on categories, product extensions, market, intellectual property, marketed media, partner, scale, and enablers. We have a little box right here that's going to go over just how we judged each scaling term, where this is near to 2 years, etc. You can read. So here's our first scaling recommendation, Damien.
All right. So our first idea was proposing to the United States legislators to instill the safe sanitations in schools and other facilities run by the state. But we thought that this could definitely help out with the product. And the reason we want to do that is We think it's going to help benefit the children in schools, and the best way to do that is by putting it in legislation where people up above could help get it into the schools, especially in a time where things like sanitation are extra important. But the thing about this is it will take time, because whenever you're dealing with government and stuff, it's going to take time. So our first step would be to engage professional lobbyists, and from there we would start our process. And according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, there are actually over 100,000 school buildings in the United States, and enrollments are only going up. As you see, it's almost 50 million children, and what we realized is if we could get into 1% of that market, we could really do a good job. So pretty much overhead costs are different depending on a lot of things, but we found that nationwide advocacy is on average around $8,000 a month. So with that, we realized 5 years of lobbying would cost about $500,000. But if we could lobby and literally tap into 1% of the market, selling 1,000 units, like I said, 100,000 schools, at 25,000 a unit, that's a $25 million payout. So that's a raw ROI of 5,000%. So as we said, we're using a chart to help differentiate how each recommendation differs. And this one would likely take over 2 years. It would take a long time, but it would have a huge payout, and it could be very beneficial.
Hello. So the second recommendation we have is to use the Breezy 3 drone platform to create drones that could do something very similar, since the Drone 3, the Breezy 3 is something portable you could bring around. This would be able to disinfect in hard-to-reach areas, as well as different services, like something high up, something down low. This can reach anything. One of the strategic actions that could be taken is partnering up with different companies that already have drones. So instead of starting from scratch, you can already have a basis to start off, as well as build a relationship with another company for the future. We were able to analyze through the Goldman Sachs research that there's roughly $13 billion in different markets for drone work. And we kind of assumed that the research would be around $100,000 in development. If we are able to sell 1,000 units at around $10,000 each, we can earn $10 million, which would give us a raw on investment of 10,000%. This is something that could be done quickly, since this technology is out there, and it would be able to bring a high payoff.
All right, coming to our third recommendation, we're looking at more of a portable environmental spill cleanup robot. When I mean environmental spill, it could be oil spills, it could be large chemical spills. We also want to market towards, smaller chemical spills. Could be in, local laboratories, could be in manufacturing plants, could be in warehouses. But broad, we're looking at this at in a broad scape, looking at significant public notice cleanups. There's around 137 per year. And, we're going to assume around $100,000 per event to clean up, those spills, because, there's various types of spills, oil and petroleum spills, biohazard spills, lab chemicals, and, various warehouse chemicals. We have to know what we're dealing with. This is going to be more of a 2-year developmental process. We'd probably, it'd be a cost of around $1 million. So it's going to be a more short-term with the, potential magnitude of growth. But once this is out on the market, we're looking at, capturing about 20% of those 137 events every year. If we could capture 20% of those events, and that's 25 to 27 events, per year, we could total $2.5 million a year, or $10 million in 4 years. So, the cost to investment, the raw return on investment would be around, $10 million or 1,000%.
So for the fourth one, we want to develop partnerships with prominent janitorial cleaning firms such as ServiceMaster, ServPro. They will cleaning service has firm labor and disability risk cost, and can be with this automation we can reduce them significantly. Our strategy is to lease to these firms or create a whole subsidiary entity that will can be used as a joint venture with these janitorial firms. We found that there were 7,000 ServMasters, 1,700 ServPro companies owned in North America, and if we can just capture 2 units or 2 locations, that'd be around 18,000. We assumed around $100,000 would come up for mainly from legal fees just to establish the agreements and settle partnerships. But our payoff was found to be around 25. If we can capture just about 25% of that market success, we can sell 5,000 units at $15K, making a total payout of $75 million and a raw return of interest for an investment for 75,000%. We found this is a long-term payout, but I mean this is a short-term payoff with a high payoff as well. So this would definitely be something to maybe look into.
Our fifth recommendation would be to add COVID detection to the already existing robots. There's already companies that have this out on the market, DARPA as well as Fisher. Thermo Fisher already have this technology which can be purchased and implemented. We assumed that it would cost about $1 million to add this to the existing machines, and we didn't know the exact price, but assuming that they were $25,000 each and we'd be able to sell 1,000 additional units due to this capability, we'd be able to make $25 million with a raw return on interest of 2,500%. This would be a longer term, large return on interest project.
All right, so some things that we wanted to use as possible ideas, but we didn't necessarily use, or to incentivize the customers using the product now to tell people about it and get other people involved and buy it. Another thing we wanted to do was to equip the Breezy with hand wipes so it could continue to clean surfaces, sanitize them. And we also want to integrate the elevator controls and sensors to change the floors and levels. And then we want to offer a Breezy, another version of it with like legs, like hind legs to go up and down stairs. And lastly, another thing we thought of doing was partnering with a company like Tesla to add better capabilities to the automation feature.
Just to clarify, for number 4, we would want to partner for number 4, the dog-like steps. If anything, we would want to probably partner with Boston College Robotics, and look into there because they have the most proven, the best working dog type legs. So if you can get a partnership with them, that would probably be the most beneficial with that. If you were to
Thank you, Austin.
All right, so we've offered 5 different ideas that would sum a total cost or investment of around $2.6 million. With some of these ideas, we can create spin-off firms in which each firm can have a different exit strategy. So that'll minimize risk for investors and minimize risk for the company, because we want everything to work. We want every product to work, every idea to work, but sometimes that's everything's not as fortunate. Everything doesn't flourish as much as people want necessarily in the short time or long time. So on behalf of my group, Professor Dominic, and ROWAN College of Business, College of Engineering, College of Mathematics and Science, we want to thank you all. That concludes our presentation, and we're going to take some questions now.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You guys did really well. And now we have a few minutes for questions from the judges.
All right.
First question, how do you propose addressing the technical challenges in converting robot technology to different platforms like drones, and how do you fund that transition?
So that's why we would want to plan. We made assumptions based on what we found from our Studio 231 here at ROWAN. But we found that it would probably be best not to develop it from scratch and try to partner with a place that already has an established drone system. So we don't know how we would go around that, but we would probably have to rely on the help from the drone company, considering they have all the research that we're going to be relying on and how the technology to develop it.
And then if I could just add, when it comes to funding these ventures, obviously everything's not cheap. So we would bank on either existing cash flow, borrowing money from lenders, or raising equity through investors. Yeah, that's it. Those are our three options.
Thank you. What benefits would a company like Tesla realize from a partnership with BWR, Build with Robots?
Well, it builds onto their automation, because it's a whole automation system. They can sell their automation system, and they can make money just from helping us with their automation. So that's probably one of the big benefits. They can make money. They can just make money just for helping us with their automation, just by selling the rights to it or whatever.
And one more thing with that is that a lot of people don't realize Tesla's it is a car company, but Tesla's really, it's a data company. Every single time a Tesla goes on the road and drives on a road, it maps out, changes in the roads, changes in stop sign, if their stop sign got put in, if a light got put in, it monitors everything. So because Tesla is a data company, all that data gets sent back to Tesla and is then part of, their web-based service, if you want to say that. So by using different technologies with Build with Robots, they can now get more information and more data on, whether it's chemical cleanup spills, whether it's, okay, there's a spill here, or this is what this building looks like. So they could build on their database and create a pretty large system of diverse data.
We can also get access to if we make the right partnership, we can also get access to manufacturing abilities to where it'd be easier with their automation system. It would be easier to get the manufacturing done with them as well, partnering with them.
Next question is, nice approach. What is your lead choice for nearest term opportunity for Breezy One as it stands today?
I can take this one. It would be to push it to newer markets, for example, schools and public buildings, since it's already ready to go in. I think a lot of people don't know that this is a solution that exists.
Were any lobbying organizations identified to be experts in this space?
So we got our estimate. I can go and pull it up. We got our estimate from right here. I think lobbyit.com. So I'm pretty sure that gives us estimates from professionals that help us with the. It's an online estimate. It's just an online estimate. I'm sorry. It's just an online estimate that we found that comes from a website. That's all we can get so far, because it would take a lot. It would have been a lot more to be able to look up. Not experts. We couldn't get expert help, but we had to just get it based off their estimates based on other lobbying cases.
A lot of lobbying groups don't necessarily identify like specific things. If you pay them, they lobby for what you're trying to accomplish.
It's hard to really gauge the pricing for them, because each state could take longer for how long it could be for we can get approval, and some states might require more fees because it takes longer. So it's kind of hard to get a real estimate and get a good organization to really get behind it unless we have a real estimate and actually want to pursue this.
Thank you. How would you sell this to a strategic under SR? Has any of these yet adopted robotic-based services?
So is this for the is this for the janitorial one? Is he talking about 3 or 4 with the
number
drone?
4. Talking about number 4,
4.
correct?
4.
So the
Okay.
You're talking about partnerships. You want to do that, Austin, or I can get it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we're really not sure. I know somebody that's on the inside at ServPro, and I do not believe they have any automation systems running them. Most of it is, they use machines, but they use it. A lot of it's manual stuff. They have manual cleanup machines. So partnering with them, having an automation machine with cleanup stuff, that could be very beneficial to their company. And we market that as bringing value to their company. We don't want to replace workers at the company. We want to aid the workers and take risk away from the human risk from them. Say there's a chemical spill or any type of spill that could be at risk for those workers with ServPro or other janitors. Our company, our extension could help minimize that risk. So that's how we would bring it to them.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Looks like that is it for your guys' time. But we really appreciate your presentation. You guys did really well. And we thank you for being here. Judges, this is your last team to score this afternoon. And again, this is Rowan University, team number 1.